It is Friday, February 7th, 2025. This is the 2 day before episode of Super Bowl 59 of Football Today. It is presented to you by Captain Morgan, the official spiced rum of the NFL. That's Bobby Skinner. I am Chris Rose. Producer Connor is here. Justin Pennick is where?
I
Bob,
think they're doing a dress rehearsal for wiffle ball.
it's called Blitzball Battle 6. Come on, get the terminology right. You work for John Boy Media.
Yeah, that was my way of being like, this is the Super Bowl preview. Where's Justin Pennick?
What we think happened is that the dress rehearsal is important, right? We want to get all the technology down. We got some cool stuff that's happening this year. But Pennick, here's what I think happened.
I don't think
Pennick
Justin
didn't.
plays in it, does he?
Well, come on now. I mean, he's a part of the team though, and if you're a part of the John Boy Media family, you have a role there. You know how many years he's blown calls consistently in blitzball battle? He's got to practice blowing the calls.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you should get a gambling account and share it with somebody or whatever.
Thank you, Penn Holberg. That's great. That's great. Well, maybe Pennick will join us for the post Super Bowl show. Who knows? So today we're breaking it all down. We're going to start with why not the Kansas City Chiefs. They are the two-time defending Super Bowl champions, trying to be the first team to ever win three straight Super Bowls. And for the first time in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes is going to go against the number one ranked total defense. Now, he has squared off against Vic Fangio defenses, whether he's been the head coach of the Denver Broncos or been the DC elsewhere. Mahomes is 8-0 in his career against the Fangio architect on the defensive side of the football. Do you expect more of the same this Sunday, or do you think that Philly is going to turn the tables on him?
Well, I expect more of the same, and it's technically 9-0 against Vic Fangio because of how he was a consultant for that Eagles defense in
Huh.
2022, which is even if you're not like the biggest Vic Fangio fan, he's like one of the most respected defensive coordinators. I think he's a top three defensive coordinator in football. To be like you said, to have that type of success, I don't care what's on the other side. With Vic Fangio's offenses, that's pretty damn. Uh, Impressive by Patrick Mahomes. And here's the main issue is, if he was 4-4 versus Fangio, but those four losses came in 2019 and 2020, what Fangio does is what the Chiefs are great at. Grind out a drive. Vic Fangio forces you to grind out a drive. You think of that, Commanders 15-play drive to start the game. That's what, if when you ask what are the Chiefs great at this year, it's exactly that. So I kind of do expect the Chiefs to be the same as what they've been, which again is not super flashy, but gonna put up, 25 to 30 points and have a defense, that's hopefully good enough to win that game.
So not only is Mahomes going against the number one total defense for the first time in the Super Bowl, he's also going against the number one passing defense, which is something that he has done three times in the playoffs, including twice in the Super Bowl, including the last time he faced the Eagles. It also happened in Super Bowl 54 against the San Francisco 49ers. So in those three games, he has three wins. He's completed more than 70% of his passes and has averaged 37 points per game. So I get it that this is a totally different offense, right? They only scored more than 30 one time, and that was in their last game against the Buffalo Bills in the AFC Championship. We have talked about ad nauseum on this show about how the identity of this team has changed, but that is the strength of Patrick Mahomes, is that he doesn't force anything. He doesn't force his supreme talent to take center stage, except in the most important times. So they could score 27 points and easily win this game. They don't have to score 37. Now, they did score 38 against Philadelphia, 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. So do they have the capabilities of doing it? I suppose. They got some special teams help that game. Kadarius Toney had the huge, I think it was a 65-yard punt return that set him up inside the 10 or whatever it was. So they had a short field there. But I just believe that Patrick Mahomes' game has become so refined now that he can be a chameleon out there. If he has to steal the show, he can do that. And if he has to grind it out and win, he can do that too, Bobby.
And I think having Travis Kelsey, who again, like just a quarterback and receiver who are just never really have seen two guys on the same page where they're just able to find open holes and find spots and just trust each other to be in places that defenses aren't expecting them to be. You think of that touchdown against the Texans in the second round where Patrick Mahomes is getting tackled and Travis Kelce moves off his spot and there's a touchdown. You just see them do that consistently. And I think that's going to be key. I know Kelsey didn't have a lot of numbers in the Bills game, but I think he's going to have it in this Eagles game because he's going to really lean on him. The thing that I'm most paying attention to the Chiefs is, will their rushing game be successful? It's not going to be, we're not going to come out of this like, oh man, they ran for 170 and had this long run. It's just not going to happen with this Chiefs run game. But what they've been good at is getting 4 yards a pop.
It's interesting that during the Chiefs run, it's very Patriots-like in this standpoint. They usually just have a dude in the backfield. Good player, not great. I mean, the Patriots did make a trade for Corey Dillon, so he was there for a short stint. Other than that, though, it was guys like Kevin Falk, James White,
LeGarrette Blount.
Antoine Smith, LeGarrette Blount, and it's kind of the same way with the Chiefs, right? Everybody talks about the great move that they made to bring in Kareem Hunt. He was not with the team until Pacheco got banged up, right? I mean,
Right.
he went through all of training camp and nobody wanted a piece of him. So they were like, all right, let's try and revisit the past. And he has kind of given them a little bit more of an identity in the backfield. And I would expect Pacheco to give us some sort of memorable play because he and Hunt are kind of similar in that they are physical running backs. They don't shy away from contact, but they do have to give him something, I
And
think.
Pacheco's been really good in these moments. Now the thing is, Pacheco just has not looked the same since he's come back from the injury, and Hunt has
True.
been the better back. So I don't know what we'll get out of him. Maybe a couple weeks of rest um, will do him good. But I expect that running game to be efficient. But it's just when we're talking about the Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense versus this number one defense, I just look at the way the Eagles win, and it doesn't stress me out against this Chiefs team specifically, right? Like the forcing you to have a long drive, which the Chiefs are great at. Here's the other thing: Jalen Carter, the Eagles' best defensive player. You know, the Chiefs have all pros on that interior line with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, right? So I'm sure Carter's going to get some wins. And we've mentioned the end of that Rams game, how Jalen Carter, won them the game at the end. You forget that the Rams made mental mistakes with their protections to lead
Hmm.
those. It wasn't him just running through double teams. Creed Humphrey's not making those same mental mistakes that the
No.
Rams rookie seventh round center um, was making. And the Chiefs aren't going to have those fumbles that the Rams had in the snow with Stafford and Kyron Williams. And we look at just beating Vic Fangio in 9 games. He only has 2 interceptions in those games, and one of those was in 2019. So it's just the way that Fangio defenses, or not even Fangio, this Eagles defense wins. The Chiefs, I think, are really like built to counteract, like protect the interior extremely well, grind out drives, and you don't need explosive runs.
All right, let's move to the Eagles side of the football with their quarterback, Jalen Hurts. He was arguably the best player on the field in that Super Bowl 57 loss. He accounted for 4 touchdowns that day. How good does he have to be this Sunday in order for the Eagles to win?
I don't think he needs to be fantastic. I think he just needs to not be he needs to not be the reason why you're laughing at the Eagles, or why people are poking fun of like this run game is just a different animal than what it was 2 years ago, right? And Jalen Hurts doesn't look, has not looked as good as he did that season in general. But I mean, Saquon's rushed for over 100 yards in 13 of his last 15 games,
Hmm.
right? And then you got some 200 yarders in there. He's just been on a different level. And we don't need Jalen Hurts to kind of be the super efficient, like just make the right decision all the time guy that he was. You just kind of need him to hit AJ Brown on those big spots on third down, which is what I think Jalen Hurts has been the best at, is getting the ball vertically to AJ Brown when it really matters. So I don't think he you know he can't play bad, but I don't think the Eagles need him to have like a game like he did 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think it starts with what's your definition of a good game for him, because they have won these 3 playoff games. He hasn't thrown for more than 250 yards in any of them. In fact, in 2 of them, he has thrown for less than 140 yards. Now, if you look at that stat line in today's game, you're like, God, well, that wasn't any good. But is his decision making, has it been pretty good? Yes. Has he taken a lot of sacks? That's the area where I think it probably concerns me a bit. You know,
Yes.
The Rams ate him alive, and with Spags and those exotic blitzes that he's going to throw at you and late second adjustments you're going to have to make, and in some cases on the fly. And as good as that Eagles line has been, it has been significantly better run blocking than pass blocking this year. So is it possible we could have some leaks along that offensive line? It's possible. And that's where the damage comes, right? If you remember 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, they blitz him, and the one huge mistake he made was putting his hand on the ground. He loses the ball, and Nick Bolton scoops it up and runs it in for a touchdown. That's a game changer. That is it. So, as well as he played, and he accounted for 374 yards and 4 touchdowns in that Super Bowl 57 loss, if that happens again, you're facing a team which is, they're begging you to play a close game because it's in their DNA to win this thing. So to me, it's mistake free football. You can't have more than a couple of mental mistakes. And boy, you better hope that those mental mistakes don't turn into physical ones.
Let me talk to you about something. Let me talk to you about Super Bowl 59. It's right around the corner, people, and it's the perfect time to get in on the action with our partners at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, they are offering all new customers $200 in bonus bets instantly after betting just $5 when you use code football today. Stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets on DraftKings same game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. Scoring touchdowns is key to hoisting the Vince Lombardi trophy. People forget that. And you have a shot to score big by betting on them at DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. And if sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. Stop friggin' worrying. You can still join in all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. So, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code football today. Bet just $5 in any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Wow. That's code football today only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. You'll be glad you did.
Be glad you did. There's no question about it. All right. So Kansas City, as we all know, has won 17 straight one-score games. That is an NFL record. In your opinion, does Philly need to win in a blowout in order to win?
At first, I'm like, no, this is the Super Bowl. You don't, team knows. But here's the thing. It may not need to be a blowout, but they got to be controlling the game. For the reasons you just can't have Jalen Hurts dropping back against the Spags defense a ton. Like they really need to lean on Saquon Barkley. He's the reason that offense is there to go with that defense. It allows that defense to not if like to stress out about Patrick Mahomes having the ball down four or with the lead at the end of the game because he's going to do well there. I actually do think so. I don't think needs to be a blowout, but they need to be in control. Like they got to go out, score first drive, and get a stop on one of their first two drives, and then score again. Like they've got to be playing from a lead for me to be comfortable with this Eagles team winning this game.
So interestingly, I went back and looked at the Eagles' record in one-score games. They've played 11 of them this year. How many do you think they've won?
Let's see how many wins. 9.
9 is correct. God, Bobby, you're great. You got to go on a game show.
Well, they
You
just
would
don't have
just
a lot
light
of
it.
losses.
That's true. So they are 9-2 this year in one-score games. So, for all the people that, and we just said it earlier in the show, that Kansas City's got the DNA where if it's close, they just figure out some way or they block a field goal. Like people will say that that's luck. That's not luck, right?
No, it's devil magic.
Yeah, okay, so I'll go with that. It is devil magic instead. Fine. All they just need one more little sprinkle of devil magic. I think that the Eagles can win a close game. I will tell you in just a minute why I'm a little bit worried about that. But by the way, I don't see this being a blowout. I just don't. I lived through the blowout Super Bowls, the mid 80s on and then the 90s. Like there were just so many dog shit games. I don't think that that's what we're going to get. Last year we had overtime. The year before that we had a kick in the last 10 seconds to win it between these two teams. We've been treated to some decent games as of late, and I think we're going to get another one. I don't think it's going to be 38-35 in terms of a rocket ship on the scoreboard, but I think it's going to be close. And so, yeah, I mean, to say that the Eagles need to win by double digits to pull this one out, I think it's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, again, doesn't need to be a blowout, but they to me they need to be in control of this game early on because I don't trust them, right? And the reality is if this game is close at the end and the Chiefs have an opportunity, I trust the Chiefs to get there. And I don't know if I trust the Eagles offense to go and match that or, put the Chiefs in a spot where it doesn't matter for them. So no, blowout, like you said, blowouts don't happen. And one score games is, that could be an 8-point game at the end of the day. But I just I trust like down four, right? The Eagles are down four. Are you predicting them to win that game? The Chiefs are down four. Are you predicting to win that game? I'm predicting the Chiefs to win. I don't know if I'm giving the Eagles the same benefit of the doubt.
Is a little bit of that because of Sirianni?
No. So talk to me. What are you thinking there?
I think that sometimes if okay, so they're down. Let's just play this out. They're down a score. They're down at 7, and it's late in the third, and Philly's got the ball, and it's 4th and 5 at the Chiefs 42. You're going. Hell, let's say it's 4th and 7. Got to get to the 35. You still going? I mean, do we think Andy Reid would go in that situation? I don't think there's a question about Sirianni, but if you're Andy Reid, are you definitely going 4th and 7? I don't know. It's just I think that sometimes Sirianni he gets in these big. Now he hasn't had to deal with it because they blew out Washington. They pretty much took it to the Packers. The Rams ended up being close. They had a double digit lead late, and Matthew Stafford made them sweat it out. But I think if it comes down to it and the pressure's on, everybody trusts Andy Reid, and I don't think the same can be said for Nick Sirianni.
The issue is for that is the Eagles. The time I'm most worried about their passing game is third and long and fourth down. And maybe Spags won't do this. I don't know how many times I've seen it's fourth down and teams are like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna pressure and we're gonna leave AJ Brown one-on-one in press coverage, and he just wins every time. And they're just like hoping Hurts doesn't Hurts is gonna go there, and he throws that ball pretty damn well. So maybe Spags plays it a little differently, but where that's when Jalen Hurts just kind of can pre-snap go. This is where I know I'm going. I have the accuracy. I have the guy who's gonna win, and that's where you're there. That's where I actually trust the Eagles a little more is when they're forced to kind of give AJ Brown the football.
All right. This next category, some people who do this stuff for a living would say, give me your X factor. We're not cliche around here. I want you to give me one guy who we aren't paying attention to going into Super Bowl 59 that we will mention following Sunday's game. And that could be good or bad or both.
Ooh, I don't know if we will mention, but I do. This is my X factor guy. That we don't talk about Devontae Smith anymore with this Eagles team. He has 12 catches in this playoff run for only 120 yards. In 2022 he had 100 yards in just a Super Bowl game. He is a wide receiver who has been paid, could be a wide receiver one on a large majority of teams. And you think about it, Trent McDuffie is going to be on AJ Brown probably the majority of this game. Um, we just I feel like Devontae Smith needs to be more of a focal point for the Eagles, passing offense if it's going to be successful. Like it's just Devontae Smith has been extremely quiet in these playoffs. Like at least AJ Brown, pull out the book and you see him when they have one
Hmm.
catch in the first round and then he blows up in the conference championship. We just have not had a Devontae Smith moment in these playoffs, really.
So I've got one good and one bad. The good is a guy who barely played this year during the regular season and you have barely noticed him in the playoffs because he has only 3 catches. In fact, he got shut out in the divisional round, and that's Hollywood Brown. I think that these 2 weeks of preparation have probably helped him more than anybody between these two teams because he just didn't have the year with Patrick Mahomes at all. And then you're getting ready for your first playoff game. You're giving guys some rest anyway, right after the season when they had the bye as the number 1 seed. But you've now had these 2 weeks to perfect a game plan, to get your body right, to get your mind right. And he played 3 playoff games for the Ravens. He averaged 6 catches and more than 100 yards per game. So I think he could give us some sort of monumental play. I think he's such a different playmaker than they have elsewhere. Everybody else feels possession-y. Hollywood Brown is the one guy that could take it and go. So I expect to see something big out of him. On the bad side, I'm worried about Jake Elliott. He missed three
Woo!
PATs so far. He missed a field goal as well. He is 1 for 8 this season from 50 plus. 1 for 8. Now, if you don't think that's going to affect Nick Sirianni's decision making, we just played out a scenario. So let's say it's now 4th and 11, and he's looking at a 54-yard field goal. Andy Reid's sending Harrison Butker out there, no problem. What is Nick Sirianni going to do? Particularly if it's the first quarter, and he knows that Jake Elliott has only nailed 12.5% of his kicks from 50 plus all season long. Does he run the risk of having him miss early, and now that's in his head the rest of the game? Does he punt? Does he take a 5-yard penalty and then punt? Like that, he's put his coach in a tough position this year.
And we are so due for a big field goal miss to be a storyline in the Super Bowl. I mean, when's the last time a field goal miss has been a big part of the Super Bowl? Is it Scott Norwood?
No, there's been guys that have. I mean, are you talking about like a critical late game
Yes, a
deciding
critical
kick?
miss. There's been miss, like a critical miss in these.
I mean, didn't
Didn't
Moody?
Gostkowski miss one in one of these Super Bowls?
I know that Moody missed one last year that was, or two possibly, that was I thought loomed rather large, but nothing of Norwoodish territory.
Yeah,
I
we
can't
need we need
remember.
something like that. You know how there's I don't think there's anything more electric and memorable than missed field goal at the end of the game that changes the game.
Well, certainly on NFL films because you see the ball fluttering, right? Head over toe, and then they cut away to the sidelines and all the guys holding hands. Go watch that Bills one in Super Bowl 25 against the Giants and the 20-19 Giants win down there in Tampa. And
Trust me, I love watching it.
you'll see the shot of like Marv Levy. I think he's holding hands with James Lofton and Leonard Smith and all those guys, and they all look, and you see the ball fluttering and going past the upright and everything. It's true cinema.
Well, it's like, did we remember wild card games? No. Guess what's a wild card game that I'll remember for the rest of my life? Blair Walsh just
Ooh.
shanking a gimme field goal against the Seahawks.
All right. I guess it's prediction time for us. Let's get a winner and an MVP.
Uh, the Chiefs win 27-20, and there's a little bit of Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl MVP. Um, people are tired of it, and Travis Kelce wins the Super Bowl MVP in his
Wow.
as the Chiefs win their fourth Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes and three in a row.
So you're going for the first tight end Super Bowl MVP ever.
Yes, I did not know that I was doing that before, but I do now, and I feel even better about it.
Well, it's interesting. So this is the 11th Super Bowl to be played in the city of New Orleans. The first few were played at Tulane Stadium, and then obviously the last several at the Superdome. They have had some interesting MVPs there. Super Bowl 12, we had our lone combo MVP, and it was a pair of defensive players for Dallas's doomsday defense. You had Randy White and Harvey Martin, who combined there. Um, in Super Bowl 20, Richard Dent, future Hall of Famer for the Bears in their
Oh, Dick
46-10
Dent.
win. Yep. Super Bowl 31, Desmond Howard, technically a wide receiver, but the reason he won the Super Bowl MVP was because of being a return specialist and the 99-yard kickoff return there. So we've had some interesting guys. So the fact that you're going out with a tight end is, I think that's an interesting call.
Does he retire?
Ooh. Ooh. Wouldn't that be great if they just got on her private jet afterward, off into the sunset? They both retire. She's done doing music, and they just go to an island somewhere.
Does she should retire? Like you made so much money. What's even the point? Um,
Hey, she's
does
awesome. People can say what they want. You put on 44 songs on a concert, that's impressive.
I could do that?
Yeah.
I have done that. Does Jason Kelsey wear a split jersey?
No, he wears an Eagles jersey, and his kids will wear their uncle. Trav. I think I saw that. I think I saw
Uh,
that on social
I
media.
know sometimes we have to stay away from over-unders, but if the Eagles win, over under 3.5 cars flipped over.
Oh, that's an easy over.
Yeah, that's the easiest over. Well, who's your prediction for the game?
So I've got 27-21 as the final. I think I felt like you were cheating off my paper a little bit, to be honest with you. Either that or we're going to be morons in the rowing in the same boat. So I had 27-21. No, 27-23 is what I'll go with because I think that's what I'm going to go with on our NFL pregame show. Um, and I've got Patrick Mahomes as the MVP. I just think I don't see anybody else making a huge play without his help. And defensive MVPs these days, you really have to. I'm talking about like interception return for touchdowns. I'm talking the 3 sacks. I don't think that stuff's going to happen. So
What's the most random like Super Bowl MVP of the last 20 years? It's
Dexter Jackson
so I think the Dexter Jackson was one of my favorites because somebody on that defense, you like if there was
could
any
have gone with
game,
like 3 guys.
yeah, if there was any game where pregame we're like, I'm predicting a defensive player to win Super Bowl MVP over the last 20 years or 25 years, that would have been the game to pick, or the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had like 5 Hall of Famers. You got John Lynch, Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, Rondé Barber, even Simeon Rice is on that team. They had
I
so
think Dwight
many.
Smith had a huge game, didn't he?
Yeah, and then I actually interviewed him on my old show, Dexter Jackson, in that one, and then he wins the Super Bowl MVP. But here's the thing: is Dexter Jackson was a pretty damn good player. He wasn't on those other guys' level. I think it's Malcolm Smith.
Yeah, that's a great one too. Because that game was just so weird anyway, starting with the first snap that ended up as a safety.
Hmm
That was pretty crazy. I think,
And I feel like that was one of the more anticipated Super Bowls of the last 20 years, where everyone's like number one offense versus number
yeah.
one defense,
Hmm.
and it was like not just like the Eagles, like that was like a great defense versus like a great offense, what people looked at in like the all times, and then they just put belt to ass, and that was the game in the New Jersey game too.
Yep. So this is the 15th Super Bowl I've had the good fortune of covering in the last, I think, 10 or 11 where I'll be on the field after the game, which it's the best 2 hours of television I get to do all year. It's awesome. It's so much fun. I will say this: the first two I went to, I covered it for the best damn sports show, period. But then I went to the game as a fan. The first one was Super Bowl 37 in San Diego, where the Buccaneers beat the Raiders. I was sitting one row in front of Adam Sandler, who was in t-shirt and sweatpants, because of course he was. The next year in Houston, where the Patriots beat the Panthers on a last second military kick,
One of
I
my
was sitting
favorites.
one row in front of Bruce Willis and got to buy him a beer. Which one of those is better? Sitting one row in front of Sandler or one row in front of Bruce Willis, who at the time, we're talking about 20 plus years ago, was a stud in Hollywood.
What was Bruce's commentary on Janet Jackson?
We didn't know what had happened. I think because we were on the other side of the stage, so their back was to us. And so we were kind of watching up on the billboard and we were like, what the hell was that? I think that's kind of isn't that what it was? Yeah. So
I actually didn't. I was that game. That's one of my most memorable games. I watched that with our youth group, and instead of
yeah.
watching the halftime show, we watched like a Kurt Warner like a thing talking about his faith. So, and I actually did not see that live. I saw it afterwards. So
That is
I
way better. That is
yeah,
I'll tell Kurt that.
I
That's
think I was
great.
like in seventh. Yeah, friend of the show. I think it was in seventh grade. So instead of seeing Janet Jackson's booby, I got to see Kurt Warner talk about his faith. I think Derek Carr was, or David Carr was even on like
Oh
part of
my
that too.
gosh.
So
This is amazing. That's
yeah,
amazing stuff. All I can tell you is enjoy Super Bowl 59. We both think it'll be pretty good and pretty entertaining. Um, I know you guys will have a wrap-up show either Sunday night or Monday. It'll be at some point. I'll probably be a little busy if it's Sunday night and possibly traveling if it's Monday, but we'll have plenty to talk about at some point. And I imagine Pennick will no longer be afraid of the boss to
he
ask him.
won't be watching the game.
He's got to
He's
practice
got to
his
wash his jersey.
practice his blitzball blown calls.
Yeah.
Perfect. Or no calls, as he's the expert. All right, bud. Enjoy the game. It'll be awesome for our producer, Connor, for Bobby Skinner, and for umpire Justin Pennick, wherever you are. I am Chris Rose. We will see you next week to wrap up Super Bowl 59. This is Football Today, presented to you by Captain Morgan, the official spiced rum of the NFL.